Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees, the podcast. Well, some rumors been swirling around in terms of what Cody Bellinger potentially might be looking at for a contract. So we'll kind of get into it to the years and the length and the size and the amount, see if it's something that, makes sense for the Yankees. Do I think they'll do it? Do I think they won't do it? We'll get into the whole thing there. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to this podcast, Section 420, Talkin Yankees, the podcast, wherever you get your favorite podcast. Make sure you head over to YouTube as well. Just posted the latest episode a day or two ago and kind of got into some of the stuff, just sort of what Yankees are going to be a free agent, what Yankees have an option, what Yankees could be tended potentially, the whole breakdown, all the dates. So go over YouTube, search for Section 420 Talk Yankees, subscribe, and then catch the latest episode. And didn't really get time to get into Cody Bellinger, even though there was some rumors around, at least some projections of what he was looking at for a contract. So can use the opportunity to do it here for you audio podcast subscribers. So as we know, Cody Bellinger, Yankees traded for him last season from the Cubs, and he kind of resurrected his career a little bit. Obviously came guns blazing with the Dodgers, and of course he got hurt a little bit, and then went from an MVP type of player to a shell of his former self, and kind of resurrected his career a little bit with the Cubs, and the Yankees brought him in there. And again, I had a pretty solid season for the Yankees. Hit like 272, 29 home runs, 98 RBIs, good defense, but able to play all three outfield positions, which is key for the Yankees, makes a lot of good plays. So again, I'll say he's probably not that MVP player when he first came on the scene with the Dodgers, but again, a very good player, and of course, in doing so, opting out of his option for 2026 and putting himself on the free agency market. The Yankees now have to consider him at 30. Is that somebody you want to make a long-term investment with, or do you want to look elsewhere? Do you want to maybe look in-house? So seemingly the rumors are out there that he's looking for something in the neighborhood of 6 years for $168 million. Now, if you break that down, that works out to about $29 million per year. Last year, he did make $25 million, so you can expect he's going to want a little bit of a pay raise. Now, it's not gross. That would work out to $29 million per year, which is not crazy for the type of production he puts in there. Again, you're also getting high caliber quality defense as well. But of course, I mentioned before, he's 30 now. He's going to be 31 when you start next season. Do you want to carry this guy around until he's age 36, 37? Do you feel that he'll be able to stay healthy? Is he going to be like a Stanton situation where, it's like, all right, great, you can put some offensive numbers, maybe breaks down a little bit and gets injuries and stuff like that. So, again, a lot of things you always got to consider, especially these guys on the other side of 30. Or do you go elsewhere? Do you look at another free agent named Kyle Tucker, Astro player more recently with the Cubs. But of course, if you look at his numbers in terms of his production, what he did last season, hit 266. Which is less than Bellinger. Only had 22 home runs, which is less than Bellinger. Only had like 73 RBIs, which is less than Bellinger. So overall, I think you would say Bellinger is probably the better player, even though you see a lot of people hemming and hawing that they should bring in Kyle Tucker. The only problem with Kyle Tucker there, he's specifically a right fielder. Well, there's a guy in right field right now called Aaron Judge who kind of mans that position. And at least as far as I know with Tucker, I don't know if he has the versatility or flexibility to go some other positions. I don't think you're going to put him in the center field. Maybe he could play left field possibly there, but I don't see the Yankees moving Judge back to center. I think those days are over for Judge, unless some crazy thing happened where they just bring in some all-world right fielder somehow, and the only solution is have Judge play center. Okay, maybe just for the sake of the team. But again, with him being 34 next season, can he play technically? Yeah, but I just think the days of them getting another right fielder and having Judge play full-time center field, those days are over. So I think that kind of puts the kibosh on Kyle Tucker. And then if it's a choice between Tucker and Bellinger, I think Bellinger might be the better player, and he has more versatility. So if you're going to make a commitment of the two, I think I'd rather have Cody Bellinger. But that gets back to the original argument. Should you make a commitment like that to somebody and have him playing in his late 30s in a Yankee uniform? I could possibly see it happen. Again, he looked very comfortable here. It looked like he fit in the glove. Everyone liked him. The fans liked him. He got along great. Didn't really have any long bad droughts or any bad moments there, so seems like he can handle this. Obviously, he grew up, obviously his father played here a couple of seasons, so, he kind of knows the deal and everything. He kind of fits in there. I just don't think the Yankees are going to want to just give him a long-term deal. If he comes down from his request a little bit, maybe if he looks for a 4-year deal with the Yankees front load a little bit, maybe then you want to look at that. But we see too many times and too many players, once they get to that other side of 30, specifically the other side of 33, you kind of see a bit of a rapid decline. Bellinger had a good season for the Yankees. Look, 29 home runs and almost 100 RBIs, nothing to scoff at. But I just don't think that MVP type Bellinger that used to play for the Dodgers many years ago is going to come back anytime soon. So what we got from Bellinger is probably more or less what you're going to get from him. Early on in the season, he lost some time. he had the food poisoning situation and a little bit of back injury. So, he did miss some games there. But overall, he was pretty durable. And that being said, played a full season and he hit less than 30 home runs. Not saying it's a bad thing. And he got you less than 100 RBIs. That's not a bad thing. But if you're going to spend that money and think maybe Bellinger one day is going to hit like 40 home runs, has one of those type of seasons. I just don't know if he's going to have any of those type of seasons left in the tank for him. He could have some good seasons like he just had in the past. It's not terrible. I mean, sure, I'll take 29 home runs and 98 RBIs and playing good defense, playing all positions and giving you some flexibility. He can also play first base as well if he has to. But that's probably as good as it's going to get. So I just don't know if you're going to go for a long-term commitment on that. And again, once he starts getting into his 30s, probably less and less likely that version of Cody Bellinger is going to come out there. So overall, I just don't think the Yankees bite on that if he wants 6 years. And also, you got to look in the future as well. I mean, you got Judge locked up, so you're going to have like 2 guys in your outfield. By the time Bellinger's like 36, I mean, Judge will be 39, 40. Probably at that time, maybe Judge is a full-time DH, so it doesn't matter as much. But, that's kind of having a lot of age on your team out there. Now, I think Bellinger is kind of, he's a thin, wiry guy, so I don't think he'll have like tissue damage and get, kind of break down the way Stanton was the past couple of seasons and have all these different nagging injuries. That's being said, though, that is a lot of age in the outfield, so to speak, there. So I just don't think the Yankees are going to go there with him. So I think he probably does walk away. Now, would put the Yankee in the pickle because, again, really options for free agency really ain't that great in terms of the outfield. Just throwing on some names there. I meant no one really stands out. I mentioned before, you do have Kyle Tucker be the only other big name behind Bellinger, 1 and 2. But other than that, really, like Austin Hayes, Michael Conforto, you got Alex Verdugo. You want to bring back Verdugo again for another go-around. If you look at some other outfielders there, you have Loris Gurriel Jr. He could opt out of Houston. That could be interesting. Maybe on a 1 or 2 year deal. Just he is a little older at 32. But other than that, again, not too much. And of course, you got to consider if you want to bring back Trent Grisham as well. He's kind of floating around out there. You have Cedric Mullins. I mean, do you want Cedric Mullins? Hold together. Max Kepler at the age 33. Lane Thomas at age 30. Man, again, really the crop of free agencies for the outfield ain't great. So in that case, Cashman may have to decide if they want to bring him back just from the lack of other thing, or you're gonna have to get crafty and make some sort of trade. That's also a possibility. And or you just kind of stick with your youth. Say, all right, pretty much the second half of last season, and Jason Dominguez lost a lot of his playing time, and blame him a little bit self. Got a little bit better at it. As we all know, he was a natural center fielder. So if you let Trent Grisham and or Bellinger both walk, want to start the season possibly with Spencer Jones, go right to the kid right away in center field, or if you want to put Dominguez in center field, again, he was a natural center fielder for the Yankees before they moved him to left, and kind of go in there and say, all right, we're not going to pay for these big name players, we're not going to give out any big contracts right now. Let's let these young guys do it, and maybe let's see what happens, and maybe we don't have to do it. Maybe it's just change of philosophy, and if kind of look at, over what Toronto's doing. Last offseason, their big acquisition was Anthony Santander. Okay, but other than that, they didn't really bring in too many big-name players. It kind of just got their no-name guys. It's all played well and hit well, so maybe the Yankees decide to say, you know what, let's go with the kids on this one, and if we have to make a move at the trade deadline, we make a move at the trade deadline. So that could be a possibility as well. Again, I like Bellinger. I could see him coming back and would be nice. I just don't think the Yankees want to give him a long-term deal. I just think they're gun-shy, and you got some other guys on the hook. You got Rendon on the hook for a number of years still. You got Max Fried now on the hook for a number of years still. You saw Garrett Cole decided last season opted out and opted back in. You have him on the hook for a number of years to go still. So you got about 2 or 3 years left of Stanton. I just don't think the Yankees are going to make that commitment to Bellinger. If they do, it'd be great. The whole idea is that you get the best of him now for 2 or 3 seasons, and you kind of regret it later on in the contract. But again, if you get 2 or 3 really good seasons out of him, maybe say, hey, it's worth it, and you can win a championship. So he's had 2 good seasons in a row, but he's also had a lot of history of injury, that as well. So that has to add into the mix. So 6 years, I don't know. I think you're rolling the dice a little bit. So my feeling that the Yankees don't do that, or if they somehow get him to knock that down, maybe agree to like a 4-year deal or maybe 5-year deal at max, where maybe you're on the hook until he's age 35, and then I don't know if he would go for that, but I think that's the only way you see it happen. I just don't think the Yankees are going to want to sign him that long for that much. But again, he's a good player. If they do it, great, but for some reason I just don't see it happening. And if that's the case, also, I just don't see them going after Kyle Tucker. Judge is going to want to play right field for a couple more seasons, and I just don't think you want to move Judge into center. Because if you're going to sign Kyle Tucker, you're going to sign him to a multi-year deal. That means then it's multi-years that Judge is going to play center field, and I just don't see that happening. If the Yankees land some crazy deal that bring in some mega superstar right fielder, the Yankees got to like hold their breath for 1 year just to, kind of like when they got Soto. You make a move like that when you bring in someone like Juan Soto, who's a right fielder. Okay, Judge, move to center there just because, obviously Soto, the generational talent, and all that stuff. That's a situation where you move Judge. So if the Yankees pull off some type of trade like that for 2026, and okay, you can put Judge in center field again for 1 more year. Okay, but if you're going to sign Kyle Tucker to a 4 or 5 year deal, then it doesn't make sense because then Judge is going to have to play center field for a couple years. I just don't see that happening. And again, maybe the only benefit of Tucker is that he's a couple years younger. Right now he's 28 versus Bellinger's 30 there. So, if you do give Tucker a longer term, if you're going to do that, at least it makes a little bit more sense with Kyle Tucker just because he's 2 years younger. But overall, I just don't think the Yankees are going to go after both. And as for Trent Grisham, I think the Yankees would like to have him back. It says, but after he hit 30-something home runs, I don't think he's going to want a contract at the size of Bellinger's going to ask for, but he's definitely going to want a multi-year deal. But I could see possibly someone like him because he doesn't really have the resume, and I don't think he's going to have a long-term deal. Maybe he'll take a 2-year deal from the Yankees, so I think he'll kick the tires on that potentially. You like the home runs, but was that a kind of a 1 year wonder? You see guys sometimes have a great season like that right before they about to hit free agency, and then they're not that same player there. So I wouldn't be shocked if both of them end up leaving the Yankees just because I just want to look at them too. I don't, I'm going to be nitpicky, but just look at this past postseason. I mean, what did the two of them really do? You got nothing really out of Trent Grisham overall, and Bellinger. He had some good hustle plays during the Boston series, and that mainly had to do with, their outfielders there just being terrible and butchering balls all over the place there. But did Bellinger have any big moments, any key hits or anything like that? I mean, I really can't think of anything much at all. You always get good defense from him, but what did he do against Toronto? Crickets. Didn't do anything. So if you could lose those two guys, then you could maybe lose 2 other people there. So you're not really in dire need to bring them back because, again, they had some decent regular season, that's okay, but what did they give you for the playoffs? What did they do in the playoffs? Absolutely nothing. So I'm not saying it really should be the only reason why you bring them back, playoffs is just a week or two, but I think that's something to be considering in mind there as well. I mean, if they had a good postseason, they looked comfortable and had some good moments, maybe all right, let's bring the person in there. But if you got someone that's just going to strike out or pop up and whatever, give you nothing, then, well, you can find 2 other players to do the same thing for much cheaper there. So we'll see how that all goes. So that's the episode. Bellinger supposedly looking for a 6-year deal worth $168. Probably there's a good chance we might have seen the last of Bellinger in Yankee uniform, unless something happens in the future to track that. But I just don't think the Yankees are going to go for a big deal like that, nor do I think they're going to go for someone like Kyle Tucker and have Judge then move over to center field. Because remember, you also have Stanton around, who he's going to, again, for the next 2 years at least, is probably going to take up the majority of those DH spots there. So maybe it's a youth movement. Maybe they try to get Dominguez and Spencer Jones a push. Obviously Jones is going to make a big leap. He's crushed it in both double and triple A, and if he crushes it in the spring, maybe they feel he's ready for the big leagues, and that could be possible. And of course, that solves the center field problem. Catch you next time.